Hello, it's Emma from City of Portsmouth College, and I'm just going to give you an overview of Paper 2, English Language 2.0, which is on contemporary text. So I'm just going to give an overview of the questions similar to the way I did it for Paper 1, and just give you some tips and advice on how to approach the paper. So firstly, before you go in for the exam, I do want you to think about whether you're going to tackle the reading section first or the writing section. Some students like to go for that 40-mark writing question, whereas others do prefer to do the reading and take the questions as they come in the paper. I'm going to cover the reading section first. And what I will say is, before you do anything, please read both of the texts. So text 1 is usually fiction, and it is, as I say, it's contemporary, it's modern, it's usually taken from a novel. And text 2 will be on a similar theme, and it's going to be non-fiction, which could be an article or a memoir or autobiography. But you need to spend a good 10, maybe 15 minutes reading through. And don't forget to read the little bit of blurb at the top, and check the glossary at the end of the text if there's any words, just to check your understanding. I would also recommend you take a highlighter, and just as you're reading, highlight any phrases or words that stick out to you. Basically, that's going to help you when it comes to answering the language and structure question, definitely the summary question and the comparison question. Okay, I'm going to actually start off with the language question. So it's question 2, and in the exam it will take an extract from the text. It will be maybe a couple of paragraphs, as in this example, and it's a 6-marker. How does the writer use language to show that Mount Doom is an unwelcoming place? Use examples from the extract and relevant subject terminology. Okay, so we know that we need to find any quotes that tell us that it's an unwelcoming place. We need to get examples, i.e. quotes, and we need to mention relevant subject terminology. Okay, so just a quick reminder about relevant subject terminology. Some students still wonder what that is. Basically, it's any adjectives, nouns, verbs, metaphors, similes, vivid imagery, descriptive language. If you use those words, you're using relevant subject terminology. So when you're answering this question, you can use the point evidence explain method, or peel, Peter, petal, whichever one suits you. Some students may have heard of squids, which was statement, quote, infer, develop, and zoom. So it's whatever is going to work for you. It is a 6-mark question, so you should just spend about maybe 10 or 15 minutes on it. So if we look here at this extract we have, it says, he looked back and then he looked up, and he was amazed to see how far his last effort had brought him. The mountain, standing ominous and alone, had looked taller than it was. Okay, so I'm going to highlight those words, ominous and alone, because they kind of suggest that it's unwelcoming. It had looked taller than it was. That could be something as well. The confused and tumbled shoulders of its great base rose for maybe 3,000 feet. So the height could make it seem quite unwelcoming. Above the plain and above them was reared, half as high again, its tall central cone, like a vast chimney capped with a jagged crater. As he looked up, he would have given a shout, for amid the rugged humps above him, he saw plainly a path or road. It climbed from the west and wound snake-like about the mountain until it reached the foot of the cone upon its eastern side. Okay, so I've highlighted a few phrases there, so you just need to decide which ones you can write the most about, which ones you feel confident in writing about. If you're reading a text and you're not sure, say for instance, if you didn't know what that word ominous means, you could kind of take a good guess and look at it in the context of the sentence that it's in. But if you're really not sure, just go for something that you can talk about. perhaps 3,000 feet, or snake-like about the mountain. And also, just a little tip, if you're kind of like thinking to yourself, I don't know if that's a metaphor, or is it a simile, or is it an adjective? Okay, just to start off your opening sentence, if you can get into the habit of saying, the writer uses, so in this instance, because it's talking about a setting, I'm going to say the writer uses vivid imagery, okay, to show Mount Doom is an unwelcoming place. Okay. It's absolutely fine to say the writer uses language to show Mount Doom is an unwelcoming place. That's absolutely fine. But if you were to use the phrase vivid imagery, it's using subject terminology. Okay, so the examiner would be able to sort of like tick that off of the mark scheme. But what's really important is that you make your point and that you get in your quote. Okay, so we can just say this is shown in the quote from the west and wound snake-like about the mountain. Okay, this describes the pathway and evokes the idea. Evokes can be used instead of saying suggests or infers or connotes. Okay, connotes the idea that it is highly dangerous and we could say unfriendly. Okay, and if you did have a quote and you wanted to zoom in on a single word, you could like zoom in on snake-like. Okay, so you could say the use of the you could say it's adverb. It's describing how it's winding from the west, so the adverb snake-like has connotations of the path. Oops. Being slippery and unfriendly or unsafe. We'll change that to unsafe. Slippery and unsafe. Okay, so that could be 1p. They give you like a side and a half to answer the question. Don't be put off by the amount of paper. I would recommend like a couple of nice P paragraphs to try and get your marks up. So just basic, make your point, get your quote, and do a nice little explanation. Do your own inference, your own understanding. Okay.